everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us as we kick off our bus tour today, NYSUT's Common Ground Over Chaos Tour. Today we are embarking on a journey. Aboard this beautiful bus that you see behind me, we have planned over 40 stops across the state of New York for a mission that could not be more important. As we stand here today, just weeks from Election Day, political conflict and the culture wars have been dominating our headlines, causing many Americans to feel resigned about our government. 42% of Americans say they are actively avoiding the news. Partisan conflict in Congress has become the norm, and polarization has made it increasingly difficult to solve problems. Republican and Democratic voters increasingly view one another not just as misguided, but increasingly as evil, using words like immoral and dishonest to describe each other. I saw somewhere that 30% of Americans have ended a family relationship because of politics. Extremism and chaos are taking the place of healthy debate. Respectful disagreements used to define our politics, but they no longer do. But as educators, we are here to say that we know a better way. Every single day in classrooms across New York State, teachers show students how to engage respectfully, how to have a passionate disagreement and debate and still come out on the other side as friends. Our schools are where we model civility and cooperation, and that is the kind of example we are asking for in our political leaders. That is what this tour is all about. We are here to promote common ground over chaos. We're here to remind everyone, especially those running for office, that democracy works when we come together, when we find spaces to compromise, and when we debate with dignity. And we are excited to stand here today with politicians who've agreed to step up and sign this pledge, to rise above rhetoric, to join us in finding real solutions for our communities. And as we haul this bus everywhere from Niagara Falls to Long Island, we are asking candidates to sign this Common Ground Over Chaos pledge, a commitment to work across the aisle, to seek bipartisan solutions, and to reject the divisive politics that are tearing our communities apart. This is not about one party or the other. We have endorsed candidates from both sides of the aisle because what matters most to us are the values that unite us, the common ground where we can all meet, supporting public education, respecting workers' rights, and ensuring a brighter future for our children. Those of us gathered here today cannot do this alone, and that is why we are calling on NYSUT's nearly 700,000 members across New York State to stand with us. We are calling on our communities to stand with us. Between now and Election Day, our members will be out in full force, rallying, phone banking, knocking on doors, making sure that every voice is heard and that our values are defended. We are committed to building a better future, one where every family has access to a great public education, quality health care, and a safe workplace, where educators and school staff are respected, and where our government reflects the civility and care that we teach in our classrooms every day. I'm proud to say my social studies teacher from middle school here who taught me these lessons so many years ago, Mr. Zahurik, is here today as well. I want to acknowledge him. The stakes are as high as ever, not just in New York, but across the country. We are here, educators, leading the way. We're here to speak on behalf of the exhausted majority, people who are desperate for change, Americans that are losing hope quickly. We are hitting the road to talk about what democracy looks like, working together, respecting one another, disagreeing well. We're building common ground for a better future for us all. And now I'm pleased to introduce to you one of our amazing leaders here at NYSUT, Laura Franz, president of the Albany Public School Teachers Association and a member of the NYSUT Executive Committee.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm very proud to be here today to introduce our first elected official. As our representative in Washington, this man knows more than most that figuring out what we have alike and what we have in common is more important than what separates us. And he's been doing that work so well for so long, and it's my esteemed pleasure to introduce Congressman Paul Tonko.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and great to join with NYSUT in this wonderful Common Ground Over Chaos campaign. I think it's so important for us to come together as a nation and heal, to make certain that we utilize the forces of government in a powerfully positive way. That distinct separation of branches of government, the executive, the legislative, the judicial, were invented for a purpose, to make certain there are checks and balances, that there is authorization given to Congress to make certain that as we hold the purse in the House, we get things done. I want to thank NYSUT for its partnership that I've enjoyed through my 25 years in the New York State Assembly prior to serving in Congress, and now 16 years in the House of Representatives. I want you to know I see that partnership as a two-way street. There's a commitment you make to my campaign and my representation. My commitment to you is to fight my hardest to make certain that the resources we require are certainly made available. Resources for the teacher in the classroom, making certain that you're not limited or restricted or denied opportunities to ignite the fun of learning. To make certain that you're justly rewarded for the work that you do. There needs to be a greater attention on salaries that we provide for our educators. You have children sometimes for more waking hours than anyone else has. Those children are impacted by your skill, your passion, and your drive to make a difference. The magic of the classroom is the spark of self-discovery, and you are those agents of self-discovery. You allow for our young people to understand their abilities, their gifts, their passions, how they can make a difference with those gifts in their own life and then into societal efforts after their primary education efforts are done, that foundation. Thank you for the support of education funding. Thank you for the support for Voc Ed, which are very, very important. But that spark in the classroom, that self-discovery doesn't come easily. We need the well-trained educator force. We need to make certain that all of the efforts that come with the magic of education, the magic in the classroom, are done with a true commitment from whatever level of government, because all of us are involved in the final outcome. But will we be steadfast in that effort? To the efforts for common ground, I have made it my job as a member of the Energy and Commerce Committee in the House of Representatives to reach out, as a Democrat, to individual Republicans on the committee, to get together for lunch, breakfast, dinner, whatever, one-on-one. No 3-to-1, no staff and member, just one-on-one, getting to know each other. What drove you to run for office here in Washington? What are your goals? Tell me about your district. What are the needs? What are the strengths of that district? And I think it's about relationship building. We know it. We know it in your universe. We know it in any professional or voluntary universe. We know it in family universe, that it's about relationship building, trust and determination, coming together with a common interest and fighting our darndest. I will say that I also make a strong effort. I worked the floor just before we left on Wednesday to find Republican co-sponsors of legislation that I'm advancing. I want always make an effort to make my bill introductions bipartisan. But I will also be principled in the approach, making certain that as a science-based professional, an engineer who entered into the public service arena, that we do things by fact, not fiction, by science, respecting science, moving forward, perhaps with different ideas and different approaches, but with a foundational effort that is common, driven by fact, information, analytical analyses. This is the way we get things done. So we have advanced so many wonderful bits of legislation over the last couple of years with the CHIPS and Science Act, the American Rescue Plan, the the bipartisan infrastructure bill, CHIPS and Science, the Inflation Reduction Act, an historic investment in combating climate change, moving us into decarbonizing our environment and moving for electrification so that we can clear the pollution from the atmosphere that surrounds us, making the air we breathe all the more clean, and the water we drink all the more safe. So those fundamental principles guide me, and I welcome any sorts of bipartisan contacts and partnerships, because we will get things done. Because as we've done these great investments in the traditional infrastructure, roads, bridges, all sorts of efforts with water, sewer water, wastewater, drinking water, with broadband, with rail, with all sorts of infrastructure improvements, the one fundamental infrastructure item that will implement all of that is the human infrastructure. And you are those individuals who provide for the infrastructure of a humankind. And it is that underpinning foundation that needs to be done in that bipartisan strategy, so that they're not, through a tug-of-war concept outcome, denying children what they require in the classroom. It's been said that an educator, from an anonymous source, an educator draws forth the soul of the individual. I want to be a partner with you in that effort to draw forth the soul of the children and the young adults that you come in contact with as an educator. We can get it done. Let's go forward on a common ground basis. Let's make that true difference and fight those efforts against quality education in a bipartisan way, making certain that we continue with Head Start, that we maintain a Department of Education at the federal level, and making certain that ideas from afar that are done in a vacuum, like Project 2025, are stamped out on behalf of our children's sake. Thank you, one and all. God bless you with the campaign.
Hello, my name is Natalie McKay. I have the privilege of serving on the NYSUT Board of Directors, and I am a current teacher. I've taught for 20 years middle school English. Today, I have the honor and privilege of introducing Senator Tedisco. Now, I don't know how many of you have heard Senator Tedisco speak before, but something that he's very proud of is the fact that he was an educator. And he'll actually joke, and he'll say, once I had a real job, I taught. True story, all the time. And you can see those values come with him in the work he's currently doing, because educators know when they need to stand up for what's right. And we saw Senator Tedisco do that with standing up for fixing APPR, which was punitive to both students and teachers. And also, educators know hard work, and Senator Tedisco continues to do that, working for education and moving us forward. And lastly, and most importantly, educators know that they have to compromise and reach across the aisle. And we see Senator Tedisco do that recently with foundation aid funding, reaching across the aisle and making sure that all our students, irregardless of their zip code, have the resources they need to be successful. So it is my honor and privilege to introduce someone who I feel is the epitome of what we're here for today, Senator Tedisco.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I knew that statement was going to come back to bite me at some point, but that was kind of tongue-in-cheek, but I love being an educator. It's an unbelievably rewarding job, sometimes frustrating. That's why we have to stand up so much and fight for our kids and our great teachers who provide that great education in New York State. President, I got the memo, and I see some of my other colleagues do. Purple in solidarity today. I see some of you followed me. You got it going today with that purple. Love it. You know, some people have asked me after I signed this common ground over chaos proposal. Why did you sign that, Senator? Why did you sign that proposal? And I told him the truth, and I think this is the truth. Over the years, I've always believed, and to this day I believe, when we're going to run for office on behalf of the people who are most important in this representative democracy, and make no mistake, it's not the guys and gals up here who are elected officials, senators, assembly peoples, governors, or president. You are. The people, the citizens, the people we represent are the most important individuals in this representative democracy. And I said it's pretty simple. I always believed when you're running for office, you should deal with facts, not attacks. That's my slogan, deal in facts, not attacks. You know, because it's been said, I'm not sure if the quote goes this way, when you don't have the facts to debate, well, you go to the table, you pound and you yell at people. You name call, you mudsling, personal attacks. When I was driving over here today, I was thinking about it. When we look at what the center of evil might be in our society, it's prejudice, it's anti-Semitism, it's racism, it's any kind of diversity which people strike out against in a very hurtful way. I'm not talking about disagreements in areas, personal attacks on individuals. It's the very wrong thing we should be doing. We should be sticking to the facts because we're not just elected officials. We're not just public servants. We're representatives. We're representatives. That means we have to get back to the people. We have to find out what their concerns are, what they want their community to be, not our community to be, our state to be, our Senate or Assembly district to be, what they want it to be. That's what a representative does. And I was also thinking when I was coming over, you hear of a guy named Lou Gehrig? You know, Lou Gehrig stood up on a baseball field. He was dying from an incurable disease. We know how terrible it is up until this point. We haven't had a cure for it now. And he stood there and said, on this field, I feel as though I'm the luckiest man in the United States of America, maybe in the world right now. And he was dying. As I stand here before you today, I feel I'm one of the luckiest people in the world right now because I got to be in two separate jobs that I loved on the first day when I started them. One was an educator as a teacher, to the last day when I left that classroom and knew I would never come back. Today, to the first day I became a public servant, to this particular day, and I hope it's not the last day, but God will decide that, I never loved the job more than I love those two jobs. And I can't tell you which one I loved more. The thing I feel bad for the most is people who wake up in the morning and dread the job they're going to go. That must be the most difficult feeling that you could ever have in your life, to go to a job you didn't love. And there's three tests my constituents, I think, give me that rise above all of them. One of them is the competency test. Do you get back to them? Do you find out what they want their community, whether it's a mayor, a councilman, a senator, or assemblyman, the president of the United States, the governor? Do you make it on your agenda what they want it to be? Competency, and fight for that and stand up for that. And cross party lines when that's the issue. And march with a great president. When our governor, our leader, was trying to take away foundation aid and a whole bunch of things that were going to impact our future. Because if our kids are our future, their education's a huge part of that. So it's so important for that to have that competency. And transparency, secondly. They want you to communicate with them. They want you to answer questions when you're asked those questions, whether it's a debate, whether they call you on the phone, whether they come to your office and visit you, whether it's the media asking you questions. If you're going to interact, you're going to run, you're going to have to talk to them. And lastly, it's the hypocrisy question. Do you talk the talk and then walk the walk? And that is so important. And I believe if you're going to be a representative, you have to say what you mean and mean what you say. And the last thing I'll say is what I said at the beginning. We have a whole bunch of areas over here which we agree upon. But yet we choose to go to this area, in these areas, for issues which we might be able to find some common ground on, but are very difficult. And we choose to stay with them and debate them and argue about them and get into personal name-calling and mudslinging when you don't have the total answers or a new agenda. And leave all these things a part on the left that we could be dealing with. Or they could be on the right. I don't want to go that way all the way now. But it's so important. Many of my bills are sponsored by Democrats in the Assembly, some in the Senate, and we're challenged in certain ways, being in the minority. But I think I've had the ability to stand up and speak out and sometimes get in their faces, because I wouldn't have to sell my house and buy another one when they took my house a mile and a half out of my district in the redistricting if somebody wasn't upset at me. And if somebody isn't upset at me sometimes when I stand up and speak out, if everybody is happy with me, I think that's a problem, okay? But you have to stand for something and you'll fall for everything. So I can't thank you enough, President, your leadership here, for the wonderful job they do for their students, but being a legitimate organization and group who is willing to stand up. We have an agenda, we have things we believe in, but we have, above and beyond everything, we want real discourse, honest, open, factual, real discourse. You want facts, not attacks. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Juliette Benaquisto, past president of Schenectady Federation of Teachers and longtime 37-year educator. I'm a happy member of the NYSUT Board of Directors, and I'm very pleased to be here today with our wonderful Capital District legislative leaders and, of course, with Congressman Tonko. I'm very pleased to be able to introduce Assemblywoman Pat Fahy to you. Many of you know her. She's been working with us side by side for so many years. Over the years, I've seen firsthand the advocacy work Ms. Fahy does for us as a public education supporter. She has consistently pushed for better funding for our schools, ensuring that students and teachers alike have the resources they need. A standout example of her commitment is her work on the Foundation Aid formula, which has helped many school districts receive the long overdue financial support they deserve. And for those of you who've been around, including our retirees in the crowd, the fight for Foundation Aid has been a long one. We are so pleased that we've had the support to achieve that. So with that, it is my honor to introduce Assemblywoman Fahy to talk to you today, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you. It's absolutely a joy and an honor to join you here today. But a special thanks for doing this. Special thanks for launching that bus. The timing is perfect because we are increasingly living in such a divided, difficult times. And we know that social media has helped fuel that divide. And we often say that education is a child is really sitting on that three-legged stool, right, with the teacher in the classroom, the community, and then, of course, the family. And while we put so much on teachers and all educators, it is important that, and I believe you will help lead us to better times and brighter times, because we need to get back to a little more civility. It's become one of my favorite sayings, and love this tagline of common ground over chaos. I feel as if I'm channeling my school board days when we had nothing but budget cuts because it was right after 9/11. Just brutal. So yes, I'm so pleased that we are now funding education to the degree that we need to. But I'm looking at Rose Brandon, who is a former school board member as well. When I was on, feels like 100 years ago, but I haven't forgotten some of the lessons. And another school board member, it always stayed with me. Another member at that time said, if we are always focused on our differences, and we all have differences, but if we're always focused on our differences, how are we going to focus on what unites us, what is similar? And that has stayed with me because, of course, we're all different. We all have differences. We live in divided times. We all have different ways of how to achieve many, many shared goals that you heard about today. But if we can, starting with our children in the classroom and starting with all of you here in this bus, I'd love to ride with you to all 40 cities. because it is so important. It's what we sometimes used to call character education or civic education, and we've lost track of that. So I welcome this, the idea, and the other one I love is collaboration over confrontation. Anyone who's ever worked in my office, the first day I hire them, I often say, you're not here to yes me. You're here to challenge me. You're here to push back. Yeah, in the end, I have to own it. I have to own whatever decisions. But how do we get to better policy? How it is debates. It is that civil discourse, often even civil disobedience. That is how we get to that common ground. That's how we get past the chaos. And the last year, as many of you know, I have the distinct honor of being appointed by the Speaker as Higher Education Chair these last couple of years. And wow, have we been challenged. First with rollbacks on affirmative action, then with the horrors of October 7th and every day since then, and seeing what that has done on our campuses. And I've had countless conversations with both chancellors and countless university and college presidents about how do we encourage that civil discourse, that debate, that education, those history lessons, and yet still make sure all children feel safe, respected, and welcome. And we're still struggling with that. So I hope that you pushing into the classroom and working with children from pre-K right on through college, that we will remember that differences are okay. Let's respect, let's honor, and welcome, and cherish those differences. But let's never forget that we are united, and that there are so many shared goals and values that we need to get back to, and we're just a stronger community. It's a stronger classroom, and certainly a stronger nation and world when we do focus on those unifying principles and when we debate and figure out how to achieve so many of those shared goals. So it is such an honor to join you here today and to join all of our elected officials. This is overdue, and I hope you get as much mileage as possible out of that bus. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you. Yeah, energy efficient, that's right.
All right, so next thing we're going to do is we're going to ask each of our elected officials to come up and take a Sharpie and sign the Common Ground Over Chaos pledge. And so we'll start off first with Congressman Paul Tonko.
Thank you, Linda. Thanks. So we just signed it back.
Right on the board here. Yep, I'm going to introduce them. Yep.
You forgot Angelo.
We're not good.
okay.
No, don't worry. Next up, State Senator Jim Tedisco.
Hey, Angelo, how are you? Appreciate to see you.
Next up, Assemblymember Pat Fahy.
Another lefty, I'm afraid.
All right.
Next up, Assemblymember Angelo Santabarbara. Next up, Assembly candidate Chloe Pierce. And last but not least, Assembly candidate Gabriella Romero.
Look out for each other, right? Nicole looks out for me. Nicole's sending me photos. She's so good. She is. She's great.
Thank you so much for joining us today. We are about to embark, as I said, on a journey. And so follow along with us. We'll be tweeting, Xing, whatever you call it, and sharing stories from the road to visiting towns across this great state and spreading the word about the Common Ground Over Chaos Pledge, which we hope every NYSUT endorsed candidate will sign on to and that our communities will rally around so that we can move forward and learn how to disagree better. Thank you.